It should not change hands. Even if you strip Jan, that belt should not change hands.
No.
He was getting beat up. For me, that was 4 rounds to 0 to PT.
Yeah.
4 rounds to 0. Yet Algerian Sterling jumps on the floor and grabs his head like a little bitch and gets the belt. It's fucking embarrassing.
I was gonna say, it's not like you to wind people up, Paddy. Seeing you have many a Twitter spat with various people. Do you find that that's just a way to entertain yourself, though? Like, particularly Twitter's full of dicks.
I can't help myself, lad, know what I mean? Paul and other people always say I should just blank them, but I half like having a back and forth. It helps pass time, and it's quite funny, lad, to be honest. That even these troll accounts, lad, they still have a little go back and forth with them, lad, when they're chatting shit. It's just, it's funny.
Jurgen Klopp, in or out?
In. Only idiots would say out.
There's a few of them, mind, on social media I've seen lately.
They're not proper Reds, them, lad.
No.
They haven't got a clue about football. Lads who's there for you, know what I mean? I had a lot of Klingons when I won the belt. I had a lot of people, bandwagon jumpers, wanting to be my mate, to get into clubs with me and to say the Paddy the Baddy's mate and stuff like that, know what I mean? And then when you lose and other things happen, you realise who's actually there for you. Well, yeah, I didn't even know, but I went into that fight with no ligaments in my hand. I won that fight with no ligaments in my hand, so that was my latest surgery in September. That's why I never fought on the first trilogy show, because I had 2 days after that, the Saturday, on the Monday or the Tuesday, I had a ligament reconstruction in my left hand. So that's why I haven't fought since then. I was going to fight on that trilogy, obviously, and then I ended up getting my hand looked at and got told that I'm going to need surgery. So that was my 3rd hand surgery in September. But this time I didn't just rush back in and fight on the first trilogy. I mean, in the December trilogy, I've waited. I've let my hand heal up properly this time. I've learned from my mistakes, and I'll be back better than ever, taking heads off. I don't know why you'd have in your bio on Insta silver medalist. That's embarrassing.
Champion, welcome, Danny Batten.
Number 1. You win.
Hey guys, I'm Si and welcome to A.C.E Podcast Nation, the home of the Danny Batten Fight Show. This is episode number 66. Tonight we are talking to our special guest, plus having a look at last night's UFC 259 card, which was incredible. And we'll also do some predictions for next week's UFC, as well as talk a bit of Cage Warriors trilogy, among other things. But the show's available, video format as usual, at youtube.com/A.C.E Podcast Nation. Click the bell, subscribe, and spread the word. A.C.E Podcast Nation, obviously home to many great shows and series, top guests, expert analysts, and more. Give us a follow on social media, and of course you can get the audio versions of all the different series at the usual podcast and radio platforms. But with no further ado, first of all, joining me as ever, the co-host with the most. It is former Cage Warriors champion, UK MMA legend, Mr. Danny Batten. How goes it, my friend? You alright?
Yeah, I'm really good, thanks, Si. Wow, what a weekend of UFC! Oh my God! With this one, I had to watch all the prelims as well. So, yeah, I just munching up plenty of fight performances from last night.
Yeah, the prelims, mate, were better than the. I thought they were. It was a show on its own. Like, just the prelims was a worthy of just being a show on its own. But it was all good, mate. Very exciting. Some interesting stuff. Some controversy. Yeah. We'll get into that a little bit later. But before we do, delighted to welcome our special guest for this week. None other than former Cage Warriors featherweight champion and current Cage Warriors lightweight contender, Mr. Paddy The Baddy Pimblett. Welcome, my friend. How are you?
How are we, the boys? Hope you're well.
Yeah, all good, mate. All good. Been looking forward to having a chat. Obviously, little story very quickly. Paddy's been on the channel before, way back. When I first started, really, I think I was only like about 10 shows in, and I tweeted Paddy just out, just right as you do, and just said, "Oh, I think I said something about a recent fight or something like that." And then he replied, and I said, "Oh, you can come on my YouTube channel." Not really expecting a reply, and he just said, "Oh yeah, all right." And then I got him on, and a measure of the man. He was on a day off with his old man in the pub, and he still found an hour. It was back in the days of doing the shows on Skype and that, but still found the time, mates. And we had a good chat. He was sat in the pub. But
that was when I was in Leeds, that training in bad company for a week.
Yeah,
that was when I was meant to fight Giannetti, and the fat bastard didn't make weight.
Well, in fairness, mate, he didn't come close to making weight, mate, did he?
He didn't even try that debut.
We talked about that, mate, Danny, at the time, didn't he? He failed to make weight, and then started drinking water as he come off the scales, and then it's just like, Jesus.
It's craziness, absolute craziness. It was so frustrating because I think you'd been waiting in the wings for a fight, and there had been lots of controversy about you trying to get a match anyway, hadn't there? And then for that to happen was just utterly shocking. Really is.
He just wanted to join.
Closer to welterweight was the most annoying thing. Lad.
Yeah,
Jesus Christ,
nuts. He must have known that he was not going to get close. He must have known, but.
Worst thing was he tried to say he was collapsing in the sauna and that, which he weren't.
Nah.
He wanted a holiday, mate. That's what it was. He just wanted to trip over here.
He'd never been outside America before, had he?
Oh, was it?
Right.
Is that right?
That was his first ever time outside of America, the bum.
Right.
Yes, well. So what we're going to do, Paddy, to start us off, mate, is we're going to do something which I've brought over from the football shows, which is the Magnificent Seven. And basically what it is, 7 quick-fire questions, just to get a feel for some of your tastes, mate, and whatnot. Nothing. I'd like to throw in a little grenade here and there, but nothing too testing, mate. Nothing too testing. So let's have a go. Okay, Paddy Pimblett, the Magnificent Seven. Favourite TV show?
That's a hard one, lad, to be honest.
It is, isn't it?
Off the top of my head. Are we going all time here, yeah?
Yeah, you can go anything you want.
Has to be Game of Thrones.
See,
even though the ending was shit.
See, I think I'm the only person in the UK, or probably the world, who doesn't watch it. I've never watched a second of it.
I ain't watched it.
Other than that, it'd probably be like The Sopranos, like the top of going now, or The Wire.
The classic, two classics. I like that. Next question: Messi or Ronaldo?
Messi, all day. He's got God-given talent, lad. Ronaldo's worked hard for it, but Messi was put on this earth to play football.
Yeah, I like it. I can get that. Best trainer at Next Generation, or hardest trainer?
Who works the hardest, or like the coach?
Works hardest.
Young Nathan Fletcher.
Here we go. Favourite music? Type of music?
It's got to be rap or dance, like one or the other. I probably couldn't decide because I listen to both.
Toughest opponent so far?
It's a hard one. Well, I always say my first ever Cage Warriors fight was possibly my toughest ever fight against Callum Florian. So I'll go with Callum Florian.
And me and you just talked about this when we were waiting for Danny, but Jurgen Klopp, in or out?
In. Only idiots would say out.
There's a few of them lined on social media I've seen lately.
They're not proper Reds, them, lad.
No.
They haven't got a clue about football.
You can't go from winning the league last year for the first time in a long time to then suddenly saying Klopp out. Like, it's just ridiculous. And then this one's taken over from the football show, because I love this question. And it is, in your opinion, who is the greatest man to ever come out of Liverpool? Doesn't have to be sport related, it could be anything.
Personally, for me, lad, because he dragged us through that much shit when I was younger, lad, Steven Gerrard.
Yeah, Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like without him, lad, my footballing memories as a child would be terrible.
Yeah,
So it has to be Steven Gerrard.
Yeah, your football upbringing and memories would be very different without Steven Gerrard in that team.
Yeah, we wouldn't have won a single fucking trophy. Would have been like Everton. My Everton fan mates haven't seen the team win a trophy in the whole lives, lad. It's fucking sad.
Yeah, see, like for me, like I remember Everton being pretty good, like when I was younger, like when I was a young kid. But like obviously, I got like probably 15, 20 years on you now, nearly. So like, all your mates your age would never have seen it.
Loads of my mates are like, oh, we're above you, this and that, know what I mean? We beat you to the day. So I've got a picture there, and like half of the picture's blue and half of the picture's red. And the blue half has not a single trophy in. And the red half has every trophy we've won since 1995, when they haven't won a trophy. And that was the year I was born, and all my mates were born. So most of my mates have never seen Everton win a trophy. You support them.
It's painful being a football fan, though, isn't it? When if your team is not doing very well, and you grow up, you've got to be dedicated. Otherwise,
I love winding them up with it, lad. Know what I mean? Over the past 25 years, Wigan have won more trophies than them.
Like it. I was gonna say, it's not like you to wind people up, Paddy. Seeing you have many a Twitter spat with various people. Do you find that that's just a way to entertain yourself, though? Like particularly Twitter's full of dicks.
I can't help myself, lad. Know what I mean? Paul and other people always say I should just blank them, but I have like having a back and forth. It helps pass time, and it's quite funny, lad. To be honest, that even these troll accounts, lad, they still have a little go back and forth with them, lad, when they're chatting shit. It's just it's funny.
Yeah, and I suppose like you must get like hundreds of tweets every day of just people giving you shit as well. So like, it must be very difficult not to say something back. Like sometimes, I would think. But there we go. Right. So I know Danny's gonna have a load of questions for you, mate. But one thing I wanted to kind of just discuss with you a little bit was kind of your start in MMA and how it came about. How you ended up kind of getting to where you were. Obviously, you grew up in Liverpool, but tell us a bit about like your growing up and then going into how you got into MMA and that sort of stuff.
Well, to be honest, I was a small kid when I was younger. I wasn't no hard case. You know what I mean? I was just a young lad, one of the lads in there. I was one of the smallest lads in my year, to be honest. Went to an all boys school, so like you got used to giving shit and getting given shit. So that's probably why I'm good at Twitter arguments, lads, because it was just what happened on the yard every fucking day. Yeah. Just before I was 15, one of my mates, Kyle Wilson, showed me Clay Guida versus Diego Sanchez, the fight, and I fell in love with MMA. And then the first show I watched live was Franklin versus Belfort, when he knocked him out in about a minute and a half. And I went for a jog at like 7 in the morning when that finished, and joined Next Generation about 3 weeks later on the 20th of January 2010, the first day I walked in the gym. And
see that doesn't seem that long ago, is it? Doesn't seem that long ago.
It's not that long ago, really, to be honest. But as I say, I just fell in love with it straight away. I like the grappling aspect more at first. I got right into the jiu-jitsu. I didn't really like putting the sweaty gloves on from the corner at first, so I waited a little month from after the first Thai class to get a pair of gloves myself and get started in that. But yeah, I jumped on the jits first, and I done my first tournament about 7-8 months later, lad, and won it, ground control. And everything just tumbled upon from there, everything just rolled on.
That's interesting to me, like, because from that, it sounds like you fell in love with MMA, like the sport, very, very quickly, and you were, as soon as you sort of saw it, you were bang into it. But when we've spoken before on that, you've often said to me, like, you don't necessarily watch like the UFC every week and watch every fight. Like, you will watch some and whatnot, but you don't necessarily watch it like avidly every single fight.
I think that's because obviously I do it every day. You know what I mean? So now I do it every morning, and well, not every night anymore. Well, not every night anymore because we can't fucking train every night. But the pros train every morning, and I always get a second session in of a day. So, like nowadays, I'm watching it a bit more because I know I'm going to be signing for the UFC in the next couple of months. Well, hopefully the next couple of weeks after I take this dickhead's head off. But yeah, I've been watching a couple of more UFCs, just sizing some future opponents up.
Is there anyone in that lightweight division who you fancy fighting straight off?
Well, after this fight, I'm gonna go to the university and get a DEXA scan and see if my body can get down to 66.
Okay.
Once I sign for the UFC, I'd like to go down to 66. As you know, them lightweights are huge. At the minute, I'm only walking around. Well, I'm 2 weeks out and I'm about 76 kilo. When I fought Julian Rosa, I was 77 kilo on the Monday morning, and I weighed in at 66 on the Friday. So, like, I'm a lot more professional now. Everything's a lot more. My head's screwed on, and that. I'm not a daft kid anymore. So, if I do fight at 66, I'd love to fight Jared Gordon. Just because of, obviously, he'd be fishy and he made our gym look stupid. And that's not a proper representation of our gym.
What, like, obviously, you won the Cage Warriors featherweight title. You were quite young as well when you won that, weren't you? Well, how old were you when you first picked it up?
21 I was.
It's quite young, isn't it? Do you feel like you've changed much as a guy since then?
A lot. I'm a different person now, to be honest. I'm still the same personality. I'll never change, but I've done a lot of growing up. You know what I mean? Even from the past year or two, I've done a lot of growing up. Never mind 5 years ago.
Do you put that down just to age and just generally, like, just maturing a little bit, or do you think anything specific?
A lot of life experience as well along the way, but like from 21 to now, I've got a different mindset. I'm a different person. You know what I mean? Everything's just changed in my life. I've grew up. You know what I mean? Not living in my mom's back bedroom anymore. Got my own house and that.
Yeah, you say about growing up and stuff. Does that mean you've got regrets with the things that have happened in the past?
No.
Is that sort of like what you're getting at?
I'll never have no regrets. You know what I mean? We live and learn. You've got to get on with things. If you regret something in the past, it'll ruin your future.
Yeah, that's another thing which I find quite interesting, because you can have, like, when people have got regrets, whether it's fighting or whether it's just life experiences, if you focus too much on the stuff that you regret from the past, it can have a big effect on things going forward and your mentality going forward. The other thing I was going to touch on is obviously you had quite a big spell out, because you were quite like in your early days in Cage Warriors, you were a very active fighter. Like, it felt like you were constantly fighting, and then obviously the last sort of few years you haven't fought as often. Did you have you had back-to-back injuries, didn't you, if I remember correctly, or something?
Yeah, I've had 3 hand surgeries in the past 3 years.
So do they all sort of knock-on effect from each one, was it, or?
Well, when I had my first hand surgery, I fought 3 months later when I should not. Fought Sodom back 3 months later, made it worse. After I had hand surgery to fix the hand again, and then I had hand surgery on the other hand in September.
You find that time out frustrating? Obviously, you went from being quite active to then.
Yeah, in 2016, I had 4 fights in 8 months, lad, on Cage Warriors. You know what I mean? That's what I want to be like. That's what I want this year to be like. Like I said, I'm open to. I think I'm going to win this fight in the first round, and then I think I'll more than likely get signed to the UFC, and I'll want to have at least another 2 fights before the year's up, maybe 3.
It's going to be an interesting period, Danny, innit? It's like, I'm really looking forward to the Cage Warriors trilogy anyway, because I feel like all 3 of the trilogies, all 3 of the trilogies, just, even on paper they've looked good, but like the matches which have been made have been so good. But just before going back to Paddy, so before the trilogies, obviously just you fought on that last Cage Warriors card before lockdown, didn't you, against Decky Dalton, wasn't it?
I thought the night the pubs got shut, it was, because all my mates were watching in the pub, there was no crowd there, and I went back to the pub after the fought. But yeah, there was no one there. It was a bit of a mad one, but as you know, I fought in the BT studio a couple of years ago, which only had about 100 people there, so it was like a spa when I walked out. It felt like I was just going to a gym to spar, but the job got dealt with.
Was that difficult? Because obviously that was like your first fight for a while, and then it was like lockdown, wasn't it? So yeah, it was like your first fight for basically 2 years or 18 months, and then it's like lockdown, isn't it? So there's no cards up until the first trilogy, and you'd looked particularly impressive in your comeback versus Decky Dalton. So, like, how did you deal with that frustration? Because obviously you had the frustration of being injured for, best part of 2 years. Then you come back, have a first round victory versus Decky Dalton, looking impressive. And then you've got another delay before you can fight again.
Well, yeah, I didn't even know, but I went into that fight with no ligaments in my hand. I won that fight with no ligaments in my hand. So that was my latest surgery in September. That's why I never fought on the first trilogy show, because I had 2 days after that, the Saturday, on the Monday or the Tuesday, I had a ligament reconstruction in my left hand. So that's why I haven't fought since then. I was going to fight on that trilogy, obviously, and then I ended up getting my hand looked at and got told that I'm going to need surgery. So that was my third hand surgery in September, but this time I didn't just rush back in and fight on the first trilogy. I mean, in the December trilogy, I've waited. I've let my hand heal up properly this time. I've learned from my mistakes, and I'll be back better than ever, taking heads off.
Yeah, I've had a couple of surgeries on the ligaments in my wrists and on both hands, and like I can't imagine fighting a couple of weeks after that, because like I was in agony, like, and I don't fight. Mine was from
the ones on
using
my right
crutches.
Hand, the ones on my right hand, the first time I got it before I fought back, it was the scaphoid bone that needs to be fixed, and then I only got the wires took out of that hand 6 weeks before I fought him. So my hand was still cabbaged. You know what I mean? That's why when I put that choke on, I couldn't get the full squeeze on it, and he didn't go to sleep. But it's one of them. We live and we learn. That's why I never fought so soon after the hand surgery on this hand, and I had to just let it heal properly. So now my hand's nice and strong. It's ready to go, and David Martinez is going to feel that jab.
I was going to ask you about David Martinez. Like, do you know much about him as a fighter, and have you been able to sort of, have a good look at the footage of him and stuff like that?
We have someone who makes breakdowns for us. So I've had a breakdown made of him. It's like a 33-minute video of all the stuff he does, good, bad. You know what I mean? So I know quite a lot about him, even though he's only had 10 fights and they're against the gang of crabs. Yeah.
Is there anything in his game which you feel like you've got to keep an eye out for, or
no?
Nothing about him concerns you whatsoever.
Nothing about him worries me at all. Apart from the fact he's gonna come in and swing an overhand right like everyone else does against me, and he's probably gonna try and take me down because he's like an Italian wrestler. He's a silver medalist in some daft wrestling tournament in Italy. So I don't know why you'd have in your bio on Insta silver medalist. That's embarrassing.
And I was looking through at your records, and that you've got a real mixed bag of the way you go about your results. You kind of got a good dabble in knockouts and a good dabble of submissions, and you've gone to decision at least 4 times. Have you got a preference of how you like to get a fight done? Does it feel nice to get the knockout? Because you've even got a jumping flying triangle as a submission on your record. Is it? I mean, could we say that you love your submissions more than your knockouts, or you don't care again?
With being a black belt, it plays a big part. Know what I mean? I do. I love me submissions, but everyone knows me for that now. Everyone knows I'm a grappler. So I'm not. Also, for the when I injured my hand, it was a bit weird. This one on when I injured the other hand, my right hand with the bone, I couldn't really throw punches with it because it hurt on impact. Where this hand with the ligament reconstruction, it's the good way round. I couldn't really base out and grapple. So I've focused on me boxing a lot over the past 6 months to 8 months. So when I fought Decky Dalton, I wanted to strike with him. I wanted to show everyone what my hands were like now. And obviously, I hit him with a 2-punch combo, and then he threw a kick, and we ended up on the floor. If you end up on the floor with me, I'm going to take you back and choke you or pound you out. So that's what I've done. But this time, I can't see how it ends up on the floor, because unless I shoot in, which I don't think I'm going to need to, I can't see it ending up on the floor unless I drop him and then take a submission.
And something as flamboyant as this, sorry, but something as flamboyant as doing a jumping triangle, I mean, they're real oddities for MMA. I mean, is this something that you rep out? Is it something that you feel is a go-to? I mean, I can't imagine it is, or is it just an instinctual thing you just find it's there? And that's
one of my go-tos. I do it in the gym.
Wow, I think it's incredible.
I done it in the gym last week, just training. Know what I mean? Rolling with someone. But it is one of my go-tos. It literally is. It's just there all the time. If I notice it, I'll take it.
Yeah, because what's the name of that guy who does all the twisters? Oh my goodness, what's his?
The young American guy, isn't he? Oh, what's his?
I'll
find out. Is it that Bryce Mitchell? No,
that's it. Yeah,
that's it. Bryce Mitchell. Yeah, he just keeps going. I mean, that's flamboyant enough in itself, because that takes a lot of prep to be able to get someone in twist. You have to literally twist them up, I suppose you would say. But jumping triangles, I mean, to say you had 3 of them, I mean, I didn't look all the way down. But
my second pro fight, I got one, and then I've done it twice in the Echo Arena. Once to Conrad Hayes, once to Alexis Avidas.
And how about amateur career? Because on Sherdog you got down as having 2, but was it just 2 that you had? You're 9, okay, yeah. So they're behind. And how important do you think having that exposure to the amateur scene was for your professional career?
Brilliant, you know what I mean? Like, you need them amateur bouts. Like, out of me 9 amateur bouts as well, 6 of them went to decision.
Right,
and 3 of them are won by sub. So the cage time helped a lot. In the end, I didn't have anyone else to fight at amateur, so I had to I had to go pro at 17.
Yeah, I'm so glad you're saying that, because some of my students, they'll be watching this, and some of the guys that we have at amateur, they have 3 or 4 wins, and they're just wanting to go pro, and they're like, 20 years old barely.
Especially now, I'd tell them to have as many amateurs as possible. I always say,
I agree with that.
I wish I would have lost that amateur.
Right.
I wish. Know what I mean? I went unbeaten at amateur, and I wish I would have lost that amateur. I really do.
Paddy, like you mentioned there, like you went pro at 17, and we've been speaking to current and past fighters like over the last year or so, and one thing which is coming up a lot, particularly with a lot of the experienced fighters, is how much the game has changed. Not necessarily, like obviously, like me and Danny have done some retro reviews and stuff in lockdown of like UFC 1 and 2 and all them. Like obviously the game's changed massively since then.
No,
but even in the last couple of years,
in 2010, the game's completely different. Like I've grew up doing MMA now. I've grew up in this sport. You know what I mean? A lot of people forget how young I am just because I've been around that long. And like I say, it's ridiculous how much the game's changed since I started. Never mind since fucking UFC 1.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say, like in the last 2 to 3 years, I just feel like you look at in the UFC, for instance, and you look at some of the guys who are outside the rankings and how good they are, like the ones who are just coming in now. Like you could, there's a few of them. You look at them and you think they're just going to tear up through those rankings because they can do everything at like a world class level. Is that something which you think, like when you look at your own game, is there a particular part of your game which you think, right, I need to work on that? Or do you feel like because you're so well rounded with your skills, like we said just now, you've you've knocked people out, you've submitted people, you've been quite spectacular with both. Like, is there a particular part of your game which you feel you need to work on to get to that next level now?
No, I know I'm ready to be in the UFC and beat ranked guys, never mind people who aren't ranked. You know what I mean? So I was watching some fights last night, just like I'd fucking smoke you. But if there's one part, it'd probably be me wrestling, to be honest, just because of how good some of the American wrestlers are and some of these Dagestani wrestlers are, know what I mean? But at the same time, I feel comfortable enough off me back that I'd submit a lot of them.
That's it. What I find interesting is obviously, like, if we was to sit now and go back and look at some of your earlier interviews when you were in the featherweight division, for instance, like, and there was always rumours of you going to the UFC, and you said back then, like, you felt like you were ready to go to the UFC and do some damage. And what do you think? Are you glad you didn't go back then?
Very glad I didn't go then, because I was a child. I was 21, I wasn't even a man yet. I was still a kid. I would have got manhandled by men.
Yeah. What was the reason why you didn't end up going? Because I know at one point, I think even when we spoke, when we did the initial show before, like, I think, it was very sort of quite close that it might happen at any point. Like, was there a particular reason why it didn't happen?
Well, the first time, as I say, it was only 21. I just won the belt, and Cage Warriors offered me a ridiculous sum of money to defend me belt in the Echo Arena. So people don't add that up. People think, you'll be getting paid well more in the UFC. Not really. When you're getting paid in dollars and you have to pay tax in dollars, then when you get home you have to pay tax again. You'd have to give your manager and your coach 10% each. Know what I mean?
Yeah.
I fought in the Echo Arena and got possibly I think it is the biggest sum any Cage Warriors fighters ever got. So it's one of them. And then I was doing the same again when they offered me the next time. When they offered me the second time, when the Liverpool Echo Arena show was on, I was about to fight back a few months later, and again was getting a very good sum of money. So, like I say, I've got my own house now, lad, because of that.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for them fights, lad, I wouldn't have my own house now. It's that simple. Wouldn't have been able to put a fucking 30 grand deposit down on this.
And the thing is that, like you said yourself, mate, is like back then, you were a kid. Now you feel, you're a man. You got your own house. You're settled. You're ready to go and take that next step. And I would argue that your skills as a fighter now compared to then are much more rounded, because I feel like even if your skill set was maybe the same as it was, as it is then, as it was then, as it is now, the experience and the life experiences which you've had since then automatically make you a more mature fighter and a more rounded fighter, because you just deal with stuff differently, don't you?
If me now 26 fought 21-year-old me, he wouldn't last 3 minutes.
That's interesting.
That simple.
I seen
FCC put a post up today of one of my fights against Miguel Harrow, and I was looking at it like, wow, your stand-up is fucking shocking. Like, shocking, no. Standing very tall, leaning back all the time. My legs weren't bent at all, wasn't bouncing around. You know what? Like, that's why I can't wait for this fight in 2 weeks. I'm going to put on a show for everyone. People talk about this trilogy and that, and I'm going to steal the show. People are only going to be talking about me when this show finishes. I promise you. When all 3 of these shows are over, everyone will be talking about Paddy the Baddy and when's he getting signed by the UFC.
It's that's really interesting. Danny's there. He's like, my fighter's fighting in the main event. You better not be talking about. Better be not just talking about Paddy. No, I find that I really do. I find it fascinating, mate, because like, I think that's an indicator again of what we were just talking about how much the game's changed even in the last couple of years. Because, like, in that featherweight division when you were, 21, you were dominating that division for a good, a long period of time. Like, I think the first time I came across you was at the first Liverpool Arena show. I think was that the one. It was on BT Sport, like, and I just happened to switch it on like a Saturday night, and it was just the place was absolutely rocking, and obviously you were on there and you won and whatever. And that was
there's no show like it, lad. When I fight in that Echo Arena,
like, what was that like for a hometown boy fighting in Liverpool?
It's special
for the championship.
I've said it on like I've said it in interviews, lad. Give Vegas, Madison Square Garden, give me wherever you want, lad. I'll pick Liverpool all day, because when I walk out in that arena, lad, or in the future, lad, we'll get Anfield on. Don't worry. But when I walk out there, there's nothing like it. When my song comes on and the people are going bananas, there's nothing like it, lad. There really isn't. You'd have to be there to experience it and know what it's like.
I have a lot of banter on the football show with Liverpool fans, and like, it's tongue in cheek and whatever. Like, Liverpool as a place to me it's a special city. It's one of my favourite cities in the UK, like, to go to, and it's a good place, and the people are generally good as well. And like, I just think a UFC card in Liverpool, like a proper one. You mentioned Anfield, then, like somewhere like that would just be so special. And hopefully after all this COVID shit's out of the way, we can get those, because we were supposed to have a UFC London, weren't we? Just before it all kicked off. So it'd be nice to get, if they repay that by putting on a good British UFC card after all this crap.
Even London, lads, when the crowds are back, even London, my walkout will be next level.
Would you prefer to make your UFC debut in the UK, or would you rather do it in the US or Fight Island?
I think I'm going to win this fight and I'm going to get signed. So I'd love for it to be on Fight Island or something in the next few months. Before the world goes back to normal, I'd like to experience Fight Island and see what it's like.
Everyone I've spoken to has been there, said it's absolutely phenomenal, including Danny.
Loads of crabs have been signed to fight there, lad. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Loads of bums who had beat.
Yeah, you'll love it out there. You get treated pretty special. It makes you feel like all your hard work to get there. Yeah, it's just incredible. Even the flight over it's quite an experience. It really is. You get treated like you're someone special, and you are. You fighters put yourself through a lot, and some of you have quite lengthy careers before you make it and get out there. But when you do, you're like, you know what? I've made it. I've made something of myself here. It's extremely special. I'm kind of curious. I'm out to Vegas later this month, so be kind of interesting to see how it compares. I don't know whether it's just a bit of a unique experience being Fight Island, or whether Las Vegas will be special in its own way. I'm sure it will be. If I'm
that's
treated
is that in the Apex, Dan? In the UFC's Apex arena thing?
Yeah.
You never know. That might get moved to Texas by then.
Yeah.
yeah. Don't know. Never know.
That'll be. So, you go. That's the point. You're. Is it now? Yeah. No, it's the week after, Danny. You're away in Europe for 2 weeks, leaving me on my own.
I fly on the 23rd.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So on the Cage Warriors trilogy cards, obviously we mentioned like all of them have been amazing, and I think you said to me just before we started recording, Paddy, like that is in large part down to Ian Dean and his matchmaking skills. And even on this card, like, I got a couple of friends who haven't been able to get a fight. Like we had Aaron Khalid on last week. He's a bit disappointed that he hasn't got a fight, but there's some amazing fights like we got on the Saturday. Let's just talk Saturday for a minute. We've got obviously yourself versus David Martinez. I don't think we need to ask you who you think is going to win that one. Who do you think is going to win the featherweight title between Morgan Charrier and Jordan Vucinic?
Well, it's a tight one, to be honest, but I like Vucinic. You know what I mean? He's a good lad, and I hope Vucinic wins, to be honest. But Charrier has got a lot of hype behind him, hasn't he, with all his French fans? But like I said, I'd rather Vucinic win, to be honest, and then he can have that rematch with Paul Hughes and beat him again.
Yeah, well, that's it, mate. With Morgan Charrier, I hadn't really been overly impressed with him over.
I haven't either, lad. Didn't think Paddy Goodwin turned up at all.
Yeah, it just.
But
like,
I didn't think Paddy.
He was
Goodwin,
all right. Like I didn't think he was worth.
Beat Steve Amable in the fight before. I thought Steve won, and then obviously Paddy got the title shot, and he come in and I didn't even think the body shot hit him that hard. It looked like he just gave up.
It was a weird finish though, wasn't it? Like he just sort of, like
he
you say,
just cowered on the floor, and all he won. That was his way out, which I don't like all that.
Yeah, with Sherry, like he's on a 3-fight win streak, and I was looking today of who he's beaten. So he beat Lewis Monarch at Cage Warriors 106 by a split decision, and then he beat Truman and Perry Goodwin. And like, yeah, you know, he got that. He had the punch to the body against Goodwin, and he won by TKO versus Truman. But I haven't really been able to understand all the hype that he gets, because he does get a lot of hype.
It's just in France, isn't it? Like, without being big-headed, lad, I am the biggest star on the Cage Warriors roster. Apart from in France, he is. You know what I mean? But that's because I think he done stuff with French YouTubers or gamers.
Right, okay.
And he got online with these French YouTubers and gamers, and they bigged him up, and because of that, he's got a big following now. You know what I mean? So he hasn't really got that many fans because of his fighting skills. He's got it through social media.
He's quite well known, like.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you do find France sticks behind their fighters a little bit more. So, do you feel like over in the UK, perhaps we don't support our fighters so much? You know, like when you watch Conor McGregor, like the Irish get so behind their fighters, and
with me, lad, it'll be the Scousers getting behind me, lad. So
and the Liverpoolians, you all stick together as well, and the Scottish and the Welsh. But sometimes I think
I'm not English,
the English don't. Yeah,
I'm not English. I'm Scouse. So
yeah,
I don't give a fuck if the rest of England don't like me.
You like it, I like it, but it's I'm Welsh, so I don't care. Either way, but the Welsh are taking over the MMA scene anyway in the next couple of years. Been telling you that for weeks, months, Danny. But so who should we look out for on from Next Generation, Paddy?
Well, fighting the same night as me, you've got Nathan Fletcher and Liam Gittins, both bantamweights.
That's a sleeper fight, mate. That's going to be a really good fight.
Like I said before, Nathan's one of the hardest workers that I know, and he's coming for that bantamweight belt. I think Jack Cartwright's going to win, and he'll get signed pretty soon. And then Nathan or Gittins are going to be coming to take that belt, defo. And obviously the night before us, we've got Matt the Beast Bonner, lad, big middleweight from our gym, who's coming to fight James Webb, which is going to be a scrap, but Bonner's just a machine, lad. He's going to be coming for that win.
They've announced a welterweight title tournament as well, haven't they?
Yeah, a bit of a mad one.
Yeah, so it's you got the two bouts. It's Jack Grant versus Flamines.
Jack Grant, who's not a welterweight.
I was going to say, I was going to ask you, because I thought maybe I've got it wrong, but he didn't normally fight at welterweight, does he?
No, but he's 1-2 in his last 3, isn't he? And his 2 losses are for the belt. So obviously he knows he's not going to get a lightweight title shot anytime soon. So he's done that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a bit of a weird one. And then the other one is Rostam Ackman versus Ian Gary. Any of those names kind of strike you as straight away you think they're going to win that?
I think Ian's going to win that tournament, to be honest. I think Ian takes that tournament pretty easily. Yeah,
he's the name for me which sticks out. Like, when I look at the 4 of them. Danny, what about you, mate? Any of those stick out?
I'm surprised the Italian fella who beat Aaron Khaled isn't in the tournament, to be honest.
Well, yeah, because there was talk after when Aaron won on the second trilogy, was it? The fight before the last, where he won, there was talk of him stepping in on the Saturday because he had won in like 30 seconds or something.
Yeah.
There was talk of him stepping in for the welterweight title if one of the fighters couldn't make it, and then obviously he lost his next fight at the next trilogy. So I was quite surprised to see that his opponent wasn't in this tournament.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I thought he was going to be in there. over that Latvian Express dude, or even over Jack Grant, because he's never fought at welterweight before.
It's a weird one. Well, Danny, who any of those sort of stand out for you as you think going to win that tournament?
I'm in the same thinking as Paddy, really, on that front. But Paddy, what do you think about the idea of these knockout tournaments? Do you think they're a good idea, a good addition to Cage Warriors?
Yeah, I would have loved to have done one of them, lad, for the lightweight belts on one of these trilogies, but in one night. You know what I mean? Like what Jack Cartwright, how he won his belt. I would have loved to have done something like that, lad. Get 2 wins in one night, you can't go wrong. Yeah.
That's proper like old school way, isn't it?
That's it. I'd love to do a tournament. I'd also love to fight with knees and soccer kicks, lad, but it doesn't happen.
Speaking of knees, I got to ask you, Paddy, before you shoot off, got a couple of questions I'm going to put to you now. But what did you make of that disqualification on the UFC card last night?
I think they should go down as no contests.
Yeah.
That belt
I
should
do
not
too.
change hands. It should not change hands. Even if you strip Jan, that belt should not change hands.
No.
He was getting beat up. For me, that was 4 rounds to 0 to Peter Yan.
Yeah.
4 rounds to 0, yet Algerian Sterling jumps on the floor and grabs his head like a little bitch and gets the belt. It's fucking embarrassing.
But like, I felt a bit sorry for Jan because, like, it seemed as if his corner, like, he seemed to check with his corner whether he was like whether he was able to take that shot.
Yeah, I seen what he was saying. He was saying like his hands aren't on the floor, so he didn't even take notice of his knee. He was just like, his hands aren't on the floor, so he just threw it.
Yeah.
But it was just like, I don't agree with a split second thing losing your belt. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like something he's worked so hard for. It's pretty sly.
It's open to abuse, isn't it? I mean, I know it is a fairly nasty knee. But come on, this is MMA. People who do MMA, particularly at that level, they're tough guys. Like, but you have got a bit of a get out.
I've seen people get knocked clean out and get up and walk out the cage better than Sterling did. That was acting. It was proper acting.
You don't see many guys stumbling around like that, do you?
No, look at what Anthony Smith done. Anthony Smith done the same against John Jones, but didn't want to take the belt that way because he's not a piece of shit.
Yeah, it's weird.
Because he's a man.
I agree with you. It shouldn't change hands. Like, if it's a disqualification. It's an illegal knee, but like, it's got to be a no contest. Like,
the belt should not change hands in that situation. And then you're seeing all pictures of Aljamain Sterling with the belt with his arm around people.
Did he do all those photos? Did he like all the celebration shots?
He didn't even have a concussion.
I see. That winds me up more knowing that, because like if I was him, I don't think I'd be comfortable taking all those promotional shots with the belt and stuff. I'd be like, no, let's just run it. Let's just run it back.
It was like where he went home with one of his coaches, and he's got a picture with the belt on his shoulder with his arm around him. I see him, Peter Yam quote tweeting it, putting out, "Looks like the champ's okay now."
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
It's not good.
They got to run that back quick, haven't they?
It's bad for the sport, you know what I mean? It reminds me.
Good.
Like, I was saying it to one of my teammates today, Ben. I was like, lad, it's just like what Neymar does when he pretends to get kicked and rolls around on the floor. That's exactly what Algerian Sterling does.
The problem is that from the outside is, like, for the big UFC cards, you get a lot of boxing fans, you get a lot of kids, particularly with the world the way it is now, whereby people can't go out and have a drink and stuff.
There was one happened a couple of months ago. Was it Leonardo Santos against the Russian fella? And Goddard took 2 points off him, but Santos said he continued.
That's right, yeah.
And he proper kneed him in the face on the floor, but Santos continued, and he looked in a proper worse state than Aljo. He was in a bad state, but he carried on. And he carried on for the last 45 seconds of the fight and just survived.
That's right,
and winning by decision. He didn't bitch out.
It was Aljamain Sterling was getting. I think he looked. By the way, I don't know what he was up to in that fight. He looked so frenetic, mate, and so he was just all over the place. Every time Jan would get like a takedown or a trip, Aljamain Sterling was like falling, like he didn't seem to have no balance. And
I was arguing with people on Twitter today saying he was up on the scorecards. He definitely wasn't.
Jesus, no way.
How the fuck he was up on them scorecards?
No.
Someone was like, the first round he threw well more. Yeah, but it gets classed on effective striking. Peter Yan dropped him. Peter Yan took him down twice and he took him down once. You know what I mean?
But
when they read again.
One of the judges had Aljamain Sterling up, didn't he? I think.
Yeah, but one of the judges also gave the fucking main event 49-45.
Jesus Christ! Yeah, Dana White wasn't happy about that, was he?
No.
I seen a quote about that. Right, we're going to get into the UFC now, but Paddy's going to leave us in just a second. But I just got a couple of questions which people sent in, which I want to put to you quickly, mate.
All good, fire them over. Which
celeb or YouTuber would you like to face in a boxing or MMA bout? It's all the rage, mate, at the moment, isn't it?
It is like if it comes to getting money for it, it'd obviously be that Jake Paul feud. You know what I mean? Get
a few mil for that, mate.
Yeah, but if it comes to just like a celebrity, I'd probably want to do it with Roy Keane because he keeps chatting shit about the Reds. Fucking knock his head off his shoulders for him.
Someone else, Jake asked, what do you make of Dan Hardy's potential comeback and potential fight versus Matt Brown?
It'd be a good fight, you know what I mean, in versus Matt Brown. It would. I'd like to see that. But I was seeing something before saying he's been released as a commentator by the UFC.
Is that right?
All right.
Haven't you seen it?
I have not.
No, I haven't seen that. He's been brilliant.
BJPen.com or Bloody Elbow put a story up.
Right,
So he's being released because of something what happened with a female employee.
Jesus.
But then I also Dan Hardy's quote tweeted it himself and put, "This is a lie. We've had a disagreement."
So
I don't know what's going on there. I hope he hasn't because he's a fucking great commentator.
He's one of the
really,
best.
really good. Yeah, he's very, very good.
So Fightful.com, who is run by a friend of mine and is very, very reliable. They said Dan Hardy's reportedly been fired by the UFC and BT Sport over an alleged incident on Fight Island that he has denied as the cause of his departure. Something to do with a female who's been fired by both. No details have been given as to who the employee is or what the alleged incident was. It just basically says he's denied it. Everywhere else is saying that he's gone. And alright, so Dan Hardy said, rather misleading headline, and he tagged in bjpen.com. Not entirely accurate either. He said, I'm no longer working directly with the UFC. The female, and he's put inverted commas, is irrelevant. It was a disagreement over an opportunity missed or withheld, and I'd love some answers, but I can't get any. Which, yeah, I suppose. So from what he's saying, he's no longer working directly with the UFC. So, but he's also saying that the disagreement with the female is not the reason that he was fired. But the way it's been worded in the BJ Penn article makes it seem, it makes it seem like when you say there was an incident with a female employee, like
it sounds
very, it's so vague. Yeah, it's so vague, isn't it, that it makes people jump to conclusions. Like if you worded it as he had a disagreement with a female employee, and that's part of the reason he's gone. That's very different to saying an incident with a female employee and being as vague as possible.
You know what they're doing, lad? It's clickbait, isn't it? I highly doubt anything like that's happened with Dan. He's a good dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a real shame though, because literally last week it looked like they were ready for the for his comeback fight. It was gathering steam and it looked like it was going to come, but that's disappointing. I was going to say I wonder if he's going to still work for BT Sport, but obviously they said that he's been fired by them as well. Okay, let's finish off then these last couple of questions. In your opinion, who will be the next British champion in the UFC?
Me.
Oof. Gonna get there before Leon Edwards?
Saying that, if someone who's signed now, I'd say Leon Edwards, but I I can't see anyone beating Kamaru Usman at welterweight. I just can't.
Yeah, he's good.
He's an animal, mate.
He is. He's unbelievable.
Prediction for next week: Leon Edwards is finally fighting. We've talked a lot over the last few weeks.
Leon Edwards gets the win there pretty easily.
We've talked.
Belal Muhammad beneath him. Know what I mean? I think I'd beat Belal Muhammad.
Yeah.
Leon Edwards will finish him in the first round.
It's we've talked a lot, Paddy, over the last couple of months, really, about we feel like the UFC and some parts of MMA media have been quite disrespectful to Leon Edwards.
They're very disrespectful. He doesn't get the credit he deserves.
He's top 3 ranked fighter.
Was saying, people need to put respect on his name. Leon Edwards gets overlooked all the time.
We've been saying about it for
he's probably
many
the best
episodes.
fighter in the UFC at the minute.
Yeah, agreed.
Don't get to ranked. Was he ranked 3 in the welterweight division? Like, and that's not a division which is like full of bums. Do you know what I mean?
The fact he even tried to give him Kazmat was cheeky. When he was meant to fight the former champion Woodley in London last year.
Yeah, I don't know what's happening with that Kazmat. He's they got the hype train right behind him, and he's looked impressive. And then I think they've how many times they called off the Leon Edwards fight now? 3 times already?
3 times, I think, yeah. 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, I don't think we ever see that fight, mate, I've got to be honest. And then final question.
He doesn't deserve that fight, he needs to beat someone better first.
Yeah,
it's a bit of a weird one, isn't it? Because he hasn't fought any real...
he hasn't fought anyone ranked, and then they want to give him the rank 3 guy. It's fucking
It's a big jump, isn't it?
Very audacious from the UFC to do that. I think Leon Edwards would have smoked him anyway.
Yeah.
Be interesting.
Yeah, it was a bit of it was a head scratcher. It was a head scratcher.
Yeah, a proper head scratcher.
They got the hype train behind him though, and they he's their new golden boy at the moment. And the final question, mate, from me anyway, and that is, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Top of the sport, the pinnacle of the sport, one of the household names that everyone knows.
Excellent. Danny, you got anything else you wanna put to Paddy before we let him go?
Yeah. So you've touched on how that you feel you've really changed, especially in these last 5 years. There's a lot of young guys in my gym, in many gyms. Is there any advice that you would give them? For these guys that have similar attitude to you, that they want to make it. Is there any sort of supportive advice you would give to them?
Just keep working hard. At one point, I let everything get to me and thought my talent could just get me so far. Know what I mean? I stopped working hard, started partying all the time, didn't take my career seriously, and I lost because of it. Know what I mean?
You just reminded me something, Paddy. You put a post up on social media, I think about a month ago maybe, about the people who you surround yourself with, and when you're on top of the world. I'm paraphrasing now. Something about when you're at the top, or when you're the champion or whatnot, they're all there with their hands out, and then when things go wrong, they all disappear.
Yeah, you realise who's there for you. Know what I mean?
Yeah.
I had a lot of Klingons when I won the belt. I had a lot of people, bandwagon jumpers, wanting to be my mate, to get into clubs with me and to say the Paddy the Baddy's mate and stuff like that. Know what I mean? And then when you lose and other things happen, you realise who's actually there for you and who cares about you. So that's what I'm like I said, I'm made up. I never went to UFC when I did. I'm grateful that I stayed on Cage Warriors, and I've built myself up more. And just because of the fact, when I won the belt, if I would have went to UFC, I still would have had all these Klingons sucking my arse. And I don't need that. You know what I mean? I've got me fiance, my family, my coach and teammates, and then I've got a certain group of mates, lads from Bayars, who've been with me every step of the way. And then I've got a few other people, the odd other person, lad, and that's it. Everyone else can get to fuck. When I get the top, lad, they're going to be there with me. They're going to be the ones that reap the rewards. All the people that jumped on for the little 30 minutes of fame with me, lad, they can get to fuck.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you find out who your mates are when things go wrong.
Yeah, you do.
I say this a lot, mate. I said this a lot. When things go badly, or something bad happens, or when you need your friends or you need support, that's when you find out who gives a shit and who is, just there for the night out or just there because of X, Y, and Z.
That's exactly right. When you get them low times, you realise who's there for you. The ones who are there to help pick you back up, not the ones who are there to join in and get involved when you're on top of the world.
Yeah, and from my personal experience, I was very surprised. Like, if you'd asked me before the bad stuff happened, who I thought would have been there, and then who ended up being there and who wasn't there, I would have named the wrong people.
Yeah,
the people I thought was going to be there weren't there.
You would have had a lot more names. I can count people on me fingers, lad, who had trusted me life now. When in 2016, when I won that belt, I wouldn't have been able to fucking name them all. There would have been that many.
Is that one of the difficult things around being? You said yourself, like you are the most well-known Cage Warriors fighter. The most well-known UK-based fighter. Like, is that difficult to kind of trust people and things like that because you just don't know what their motives are?
It was. Know what I mean? It was. Like, now it's not, because I know what people's real intentions are. As I say, I grew up. When I was a kid, I didn't realise what people's intentions were, and I just let them jump on my bandwagon and be there with me and crack on. Know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now I know. Now I know who's there for me in the hard times, and like I say, when I am a megastar, lad, and it's going to be them reaping the rewards, because I know where I'm headed, lad. It's inevitable. I'm going to take over this world of MMA. People are going to be fucking talking about my name, lad, in the next year.
I believe it, mate. I got to be honest. And I can't wait till you fight in 13 days, 12 days, 13 days. It's going to be another great Cage Warriors trilogy card. And certainly looking forward to that Saturday with yourself. And next week I've got Jordan Vucinic to join us. And we have Brad Wharton, who is the Cage Warriors commentator, joining us.
What a guy. Brad is a
really
man, lad.
Really looking forward to that. So we got the last 2 weeks before Cage Warriors trilogy. We have Paddy The Baddy Pimblett join us. Following up that, we have Jordan Vucinic and Brad Wharton. So we're getting ready for Cage Warriors nicely, mate. Paddy, it's been a pleasure, mate, as always, and appreciate your time.
You're more than welcome, boys. It was my pleasure.
Yeah, it's good meeting you finally.
When I get signed by the UFC, you'll want another
interview
then.
Excellent.
Yeah, I believe that's going to happen. Good luck, Paddy.
Lad. Don't worry about that.
Cheers.
See you later. Thank you very
Cheers,
much.
Pad. Thanks, mate. No worries, later, buddy. Boys. Cheers, Phil.
What a character.
Top man.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love the honesty, mate. I got to be honest. That's one of my favourite things about whenever I speak to Paddy. I've said to you before, like, it's there's no bullshit. Like, it's just he'll just give you his honest opinion on whatever, and I appreciate that. I like that in all people. But like, you could tell, like, Paddy has grown up a lot in like the last sort of 5 years or so. He's a completely. If you look at some of his interviews from when he was the featherweight champion, he's changed a lot. But I think it's difficult. Like, he's grown up in the public eye. You know, he turned pro at 17. He started like a house on fire in Cage Warriors, and he became the Cage Warriors face on BT Sport. You know, a national TV station in the UK, a massive TV station in the UK, and he was the face that Cage Warriors would put everywhere. And for a young guy, that can be difficult and it can be problematic and comes with its own set of problems. And I think it's going to be really interesting to see how he does. You know, if as he said, he expects to take care of David Martinez quite quickly, and he's got big plans for the rest of this year, mate.
Yeah. I think, you know, he's saying everything with such conviction. You know, he really truly believes it, and it makes you believe along with him, doesn't it, when someone's so confident? But I do think he will run through this next guy very, very promptly. And really, there's nowhere else for him to go other than UFC. And I really do hope that it works out well for him to go to featherweight, because I think that's where he's going to be effective. I'm glad that he's looking at things and being sensible about how he thinks he's going to progress in UFC, in terms of knowing that those lightweights are big, and I just think he'll be a devastating featherweight, and he'll be a great one to have into the mix. I mean, come on, the featherweight division is absolute lights alive with talent, but I don't think he'll be out of place there at all.
Indeed, mate. It's going to be so fascinating, mate, because some of the names from the UK scene going into the UFC now are just... It's wild, mate. It's like some massive names, massive talents.
They're pouring in, it seems. They're getting signed up on a regular basis. Yeah, it's really good to see.
Just going back to the Dan Hardy thing, I was just reading up a little bit more about it. One thing which should be noted is he still does have a fight contract with the UFC, because he's obviously because he retired through the Wolff-Parkinson-White syndrome, which is a heart ailment. He still had a couple of fights on his contract, so that it seems at least is still an option. I would be amazed if Bellator do not snap him up within weeks to be a commentator at least, because the one thing, Bellator have Mauro Ronaldo as one of their commentators, plus they've got Mike Goldberg and someone else as well, but in particular Mauro Ronaldo, who does some Bellator shows, in my opinion is the best commentator in the world. Him alongside Dan Hardy, in my opinion, would give the Bellator the best commentary team in the world for MMA.
Yeah, we had mentioned about Dan Hardy and his commentary quite recently, I think it was. That's really gutting news, to be honest. Really gutting news. Because I mean, I've known Dan for a long time, but I didn't know him, as well as I do now in terms of watching him do his commentary and stuff. Yeah. But I do chat to Dan when I see him. Obviously, he's a busy guy. But yeah, his commentary skills are just so impressive. He's so fluent. He's articulate. He's very precise, direct. He sees everything and more to the regular person. Yeah, absolutely gutting. I hope it all turns out to not be true, but if it is what it is, and he'll move on. Yeah, and probably get snapped up by Bellator. I think that would probably be a natural transition if he wants to stay doing commentary.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he was to be a Cage Warrior. Him and Brad Wharton on Cage Warriors could be quite a good combination as well. Although Cage Warriors obviously linked. He said in his statement he won't be working directly with the UFC. So I mean, Cage Warriors would kind of fit in under that statement because they're on the UFC Fight Pass, but obviously they're a separate company. Be interesting.
It'll all pan out, won't it, in the next coming days and weeks.
UFC though, mate, they got so many good commentators like Paul Felder, Dominic Cruz, Michael Bisping, and then you've got like Joe Rogan, Daniel Cormier, and John Anik, of course. So they're the first choice three, if you like. That card last night, mate, was ridiculous. We talked about how stacked it was.
It was banging.
I haven't watched the early prelims, which I probably will watch later because I've heard a couple of those were pretty good. But I watched the full prelims and the main card. So we'll start with the Kai Kara France defeated Rogerio Bonatorin via a TKO. This was a flyweight bout, ranked 9 versus ranked 8. Kai Kara France, I thought, looked real impressive, I gotta say.
Yeah, no, it did. I'm just trying to recap myself on this because I watched all of the fights. I was enjoying it so much. I literally had a whole day watching it. Just recapping who's who because I've gone through so many names here.
Yeah, Kai Kara France was.
That's right. He had a sticky start though, didn't he?
He did. Yeah, the first minute or two was a bit and then he got himself together quick though.
Yeah, he was struggling a little bit, but he recovered because he had to defend that back position for quite a long time. And there was a couple of times where it really stuck underneath, and I thought he was done. And I think anyone watching thought he was going to be done. But he fought out of it, But of course, when you're on someone's back and you're trying to choke them, you're taking something out of your arms. And when they got back to their feet, he just went straight after Bonatorin. And
Bonatorin is so sorry to interrupt you, mate. He's so good with the jiu-jitsu that I thought once he had his back early on, I thought, geez,
so early,
that's it. I thought it was over. And his Kai Kara France's defense was so impressive, and then to go from that position where you felt he was in so much danger to then go and win the fight quite convincingly was really impressive, I thought.
Yeah, I think when you got someone on your back and they've been attacking you like that, there was situations where it was stood as well, where he got stood up and he's on the back, but that was his saving grace, really, because Bonatorin fell off his back, didn't he, and went underneath, and then he scrambled back up to his feet. But like I say, it takes something out of your arms when you're trying to force a choke on, and it doesn't work out, and you fall off. Your arms are full of used blood, and your body's going to try and have to get all that lactic acid out. And he did the exact right thing, which is to go on the attack afterwards, especially with the hands, and he was just being aggressive. Yeah, and he floored him. Yeah, there was a little bit of a little misunderstanding as well about when the fight stopped, wasn't there? He went running back over, didn't he? So there was very close to a confusing incident.
I think it was because the referee didn't, because when he knocked him out, he walked off, and as he walked off, the referee kind of just put his arm across him and shadowed him away. But then when he circled around celebrating, it looked to him, I think, as if the referee was kind of saying, he hadn't ended the fight. So he ran over it to do a hammer fist to finish it, and the ref then blocked him, and Bonatorin didn't like it too much. But, I thought Kai Kara France was pretty good. And then, next up on the prelims, we had Askarov versus Joseph Benavidez, another flyweight bout. And it wasn't long ago Benavidez was main eventing
I know,
a card, and I don't think it's any necessarily disrespectful or anything like that. I think it's just this card was so stacked that there's only so many fights you can put on the main card.
Sure.
It's a bit strange to me that it was so jam packed when you could spread some of these fights out, over some cards.
I thought it was great to watch. It just all fell in place that we ended up with an incredible prelims and a pretty impressive main card as well. I mean, the main card was good as well, but you do find on the prelims, these young guys or these guys with early contracts in UFC are trying to make an impression, so they kind of let it all out a little bit more. I think once they become established, they become a little bit more sure-footed on their approach of each fight. But the prelims, they really do go for it. But Askarov, wasn't he impressive? And Benavidez, he's just really struggling now. He's always had a crude game. He's never looked pretty with the way he strikes. He's just been a very, very physical dude. Clearly got a lot of dynamite in his hands and a lot of power, and athletically gifted, and a massive desire to win. But that's just not enough these days. He was just getting technically outdone. He's getting done with the teep, getting outmatched with the hands. He kept trying to loop his shots. Askarov just kept keeping it straight, and so that's why his shots were landing more than Benavidez. And then in the wrestling exchanges, he's taking Benavidez down so clean with the same type takedown on numerous occasions. It just looked like two guys with two different levels. It really did. You got to wonder where Benavidez goes from here. What is that? 3 losses in a row? I think he's had now. Not too sure where he goes from here. Yeah, but Askarov, he's on the way up. He's looking very, very convincing.
Yeah, Khabib in his corner telling him what to do makes you think he's only going to get better. Was it? No, it wasn't Khabib. Was it Khabib in his? No,
I'm not too sure. That was in another fight.
It was Islam Makhachev.
Islam, yes, yeah.
Sorry, that was my mistake. The Askarov just looks superb. You'd imagine he'll go up to at least rank number 2 now, because Benavidez was 2. Next up was one of my favourite fights of the night, and that was Kyler Phillips versus Song Yadong, with Kyler Phillips not in the rankings. Song Yadong was a heavy favourite in number 14. Kyler Phillips took the decision 29-28 across the board. Other than finishing this fight, Kyler Phillips couldn't have done much more. Thought he was about as impressive as he could have been. But Song Yadong, what a chin this guy has got. Jesus.
Yeah, you hear that shin kick that landed on top of his head? It made a hell of a racket. I think he got away with it because it did skim him, although it was fairly impactful. I think a little low on the head, it would have opened him up or knocked him out, you would only but think. But still an impressive chin nevertheless, because it made such a sound. It must have connected fairly solidly. But Yadong still impressed me with his output and desire to push and win. But I think he just struggled with Phillips' range. Philip was being really outward, really patient. He would go in and really make something of his attacks and really push forward, but then stay out of trouble, recover, and then go back in again. And then soon as Yadong tried to get in the pocket where it looked like he could be effective, he would throw in a nice takedown. And he kind of just did enough of everything in the right order to keep stealing each round. Although I did think he lost that final round. I think he began to get a little bit tired. And so perhaps Kyler Phillips has got to think about how he's going to deal with 5 rounds, because in that division, it's a brutal pace at all times, isn't it? But he did look like he was beginning to slow up in that 3rd round. Maybe that's Song Yadong was perhaps sussing out his style a little bit more and knowing how to go about trying to get successes come that 3rd round. I don't know, but Kyler Phillips overall was impressive. Really good distance management and making the right choices at the right time, which I think that's what's led him to get that victory.
Yeah, I just thought it was a very enjoyable fight. Like Song Yadong is just an absolute animal. Like his chin is just incredible. He took some massive shots on the button, and they just didn't. He just and what was weird about this fight is Song did not stop coming forward for the whole fight. No. But he was taking these massive shots, but he kept coming forward, forward and forward.
Oh, he was very machine-like. It just felt like his punches were a little bit short. He just couldn't dig him in, because he's clearly got power. We've seen that in previous fights. He's got the power there, but it was the ability of Kyler to get in and out. He was getting in, dropping off his payload and getting out of trouble very, very quickly. And whenever in doubt, he managed to shoot in and get the takedown, or at least shoot in to re-establish range and just stop Yadong being effective. It was an impressive performance. Did you see the female bout as well, on the prelims? Because that was the earlier part of the prelims.
I didn't see. No, that was an early prelims. No.
Yeah, because Lemos, she's one to look out for. She's got incredible power, punching and kicking. Like it was frightful. I felt sorry for Souza. Souza got knocked down more than once. It's on their 2nd occasion that the ref decided to step in. But she had some punts. Souza had some punts at leg lock at some points, but nothing that looked like it was going to get anywhere near to get successes. It just prolonged what was inevitable, which was to get dropped on that 2nd time and get put out and get the ref to step in. But Lemos, very, very impressive. Very, very powerful, very cool, calm and collected. Showed good stability on top in the grappling exchanges. Yeah, she's one to look out for.
Yeah, I'm going to check that fight out, mate, very shortly.
Yeah,
actually.
it's impressive. It's only a short fight, but it's a good one to watch.
So the main event, if you like, of the prelims was Dominic Cruz making his return versus Casey Kenny. This was a huge fight for Casey Kenny. Obviously, quite a young fighter, and just a very difficult fight to fight someone of Cruz's stature. Cruz picked up the victory via unanimous decision, 30-27, 29-28 and 28-29. So a split decision. How did you think Casey Kenny did overall, mate?
I think he did well under the circumstances. Look, I wasn't too sure what Cruz was going to turn up. I was thinking perhaps Cruz has been found out a little bit. I think people who fight him know what they have to do to try to get their successes, but trying to suss out how you go about getting that sort of situation to get the win and stifle Cruz's awkward footwork is another thing, because you can't really prepare for the guy. No one can really emulate his style. Very, very difficult to train for. Kenny was having successes with the inside leg kicks, but just not quite success enough. Cruz looked really good, considering he's not fighting as frequently as he did previously. He's obviously gone through some big surgeries as well. He's mid-30s, although a well-kept mid-30s. I just thought those things would go against him enough to not be able to pull off the kind of performance that he pulled off. Kenny just couldn't get it together enough. He just couldn't find Cruz often enough to get the nod with the judges. I mean, a split decision goes to show it all, really. It was really close, but I think Cruz was doing enough to edge it each time. The only major success I feel like Kenny was having was that inside leg kick, but I think across the board Cruz was just getting too many other frequent successes each round, and he got my nod as well.
I felt Cruz had it, but I thought Casey Kenny didn't do his just his overall career any harm whatsoever. Perhaps I think he'd probably like to run the fight back, maybe when he's a bit more experienced, or later down the line, or maybe even in a year's time, because I just felt maybe with a few tweaks to his game plan, he could have won that fight. Like, it wasn't too out of reach in terms of quality. There was just a few little bits which maybe didn't go his way or didn't quite work on the night. But Dominic Cruz, I thought, looked pretty good, I've got to be honest. He did. He done extremely well, and he's proven himself to still be hanging in there. Be interesting to see how he'll progress from here. I mean, Kenny was on the up, wasn't he? So yes,
I don't know
how he recovers, next. Isn't it? It's
how Kenny recovers.
Kenny recovers.
I mean, I think he'll be back. He's up there in the top 10 all day, I believe. So he's just got a little bit more seasoning to do. Cruz has been at the top of the game for a long, long time now. So it's no shame to have lost to him by any stretch. And like I say, it was a split decision. It was worthy of that close-sounding decision because it was a close fight. But absolutely well done to Cruz. I didn't think he was going to pull it off, and he did.
Yes, indeed, he did. So we move on to the main. Go on.
Before we go on to main card, because I watched all the fights. Did you see the Sean Brady one? Sean Brady. And,
I haven't seen any of the
early ones.
Like the prelims.
It's all right if I just skim over them.
Yeah, go on. You go for it, mate.
Sean Brady and Jake Matthews. Jake Matthews showed some really good potential in the striking. He was looking pretty good, but Sean Brady, once he knew to get it to the ground, he was just waiting patiently to get any opportunity to get it there, and he looked pretty damn dominant when he was getting in there. This guy was, I think, 14-0 or something like that at the time.
Okay.
But went on to push it to 15-0 now, something along those lines. But this guy's, he's got an extensive unbeaten record now. And in that final round, he was absolutely all over Matthews on the grappling, but played everything patiently. He didn't come off from top control, risking a submission or anything like that. He just kept chipping away with the ground and pound, softening Matthews up until he got a top positioned arm triangle. It was just a really seasoned performance, and with a record with that sort of extensive wins with no losses, he's got to be stepping right up onto the main card next time around. And I don't know what his ranking will be now, but that's a pretty impressive unbeaten streak. So who knows what's going to be in store for Sean Brady in the near future.
What was that fight I was going to ask you about? So there was two I wanted to ask you about. You had Trayvon Jones defeated Mario Batista via TKO 47 seconds in the second round. What was that fight like?
Hang on, which one? Sorry,
that was the first fight on the early prelims.
What was the name? Yes.
Trayvon Jones versus Batista.
Right, yes. Okay, so with this one, Batista was looking good, looking really, really good with his striking. It looked like he was edging the fight. It was, slightly going in his favour, I would say. and Jones was getting a little bit flustered. There was opposite stances, but Jones just looked like he just packed some power, and eventually got his opportunity. He cracked Batista with a 2-punch combination, knocked into the back and finished with some hammer fists. It wasn't a polished performance on anyone's front, really. I would say Batista was looking like the better fighter, but in this game you get caught, you get finished, and he got caught. But Jones has got things to work on. Even though he got that win, he's not polished all round yet. He's definitely got work to do, but he's on the prelims. He'll stay on the prelims for a little bit longer, I think, until he consolidates all of his style, if you will. It's just got some more improvements to make, but hey, it's a win on UFC. Can't knock that.
Absolutely, mate. And then the other one I was going to just ask you about was the Tim Elliott and Jordan Espinoza. What was the Espinoza's performance like? Because I was interested in how this fight was going to go.
Yeah. Espinoza's just so fast, so fast. But Tim Pimblett does what he always does. He seems to have that set style about himself. He strikes a little bit, he smothers, and he started to smother Espinoza and Espinoza. Espinoza was just too erratic. He was really, really fast. He's clearly athletic, but a little bit erratic, and he made some mistakes, got himself put into a grounded situation, and couldn't really recover from them. And I just feel like he just needs to slow himself down, because his speed is like an attribute which is his strength, and he just needs to tidy up his strategy a little bit and his tactics a little bit. He was just making unforced errors. It wasn't even forced into errors, and I felt like that was letting him down somewhat. So Tim Elliott, to me, looked really, really good. He did a really good smothering style game to push through for the win. I think he was looking pretty impressive, but he was just taking what was being given. It's not like he had to force it down a particular route for these mistakes. The mistakes for me was just being given to him on a plate, and he just took them like any experienced UFC guy should. He was just taking them up, and it was a pretty impressive, solid performance by Tim Elliott.
Cool. Right, moving on to the main card. Alexander Rakitch versus Thiago Santos, ranked 4 versus ranked 2, with Rakitch winning via unanimous decision, 30-27, 29-28, 29-28. This fight was a bore fest, mate. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just think this was two potential big strikers having either fear or respect of each other. I don't know how you want to look at it, but they just couldn't open up on each other. They just couldn't open up on each other.
I was saying when me and Paddy were waiting for you at the start of the show, I said to Paddy, they've trained a bit together, and these two, Rakitch and Santos, and I think they almost became so wary of each other and the damage that they could do and the tools that they had, that they didn't go for it. And that's a shame, because I think this could have been fireworks and it could have been a great fight, and it just never quite happened. Yeah,
I mean, Thiago Santos is someone he normally takes it to you. And there was fleeting moments when he did take it to Rakitch, and it looked like it could have been effective if he'd just done it a little bit more frequently. But Rakitch is a huge man, really clearly a powerful dude. So, I just felt like maybe Thiago Santos felt that he couldn't stay in the pocket too long. He just sort of had to jump in, try and get an exchange of combinations. If something come of it, he would have perhaps stayed in the pocket, but he couldn't get anything going. And Rakitch just worked a little better out of range, and the occasional clinches that they had kind of looked in Rakitch's favour, it being the stronger, bigger man. But it was not the fight I don't think I was expecting, or anyone was expecting. It had the potential to be a real bang fest, but it wasn't, and it was unfortunately a bit of a bore fest. Although, because what they're both capable of, I was waiting on my seat for something to happen, but it just didn't happen. But I just think sometimes different styles of fighters make some fantastic fights, and some other styles they just don't. They don't always ignite each other's game. Sometimes they kind of stamp each other's strengths out, and I think that's what we sort of saw here tonight. Well, last night, sorry.
Indeed, mate, indeed. I was a bit disappointed because I thought this was going to be a blockbuster, this fight. Speaking of blockbusters, mate, Islam Makhachev defeated Drew Dober via an arm triangle submission about a minute and a half into the third round. Look, Islam Makhachev is ranked 14. Drew Dober is like the hot young thing of the division. Islam Makhachev, to me, looks like a top 3 in the world fighter. He is scary good.
Yeah, I thought Drew Dober would have put on a more effective performance.
He just didn't have a chance, I don't think, mate.
He could not stop the wrestling. And Drew Dober, to me, when you just see this on paper, looked like he'd match up really well. But Islam's clearly made improvements as well. The instruction from the corner was obviously precise and clear. It looked like he was just responding to what was being told to do, and he did it with great effect. It was absolutely solid, really, really solid. Each time he got hold of him, you just knew he was going to put Dober down to the ground and systematically outmaneuver him on the ground. It just looked like a boy and a man rolling around on the floor in the end. Just Dober looked lost. He looked absolutely lost. But Islam's looking really, really. Yeah, it absolutely broke. But Islam's just looking so convincing. I think it was in this one, didn't they? That armbar exchange, where it looked like Dober was. I mean, he did so well just to escape that. But I mean, unfortunately for him, the sort of like highlight for him was the way he escaped one of the submissions.
Yeah.
But the rest of it just didn't look good. Well, it just didn't go well for him. But not because he was doing anything particularly wrong. Islam was just the better fighter all round, literally all round. It was 2 different classes in there.
Yeah, he just looks special. I want to see him fight like a top 5 fighter now.
He can.
There's no point in. I know he's technically ranked like 14. He'll go up a couple of places. There's no point in giving him like rank 9 or rank 10. You got to give him one of the big boys because he looks so special. If you just give him like the rank 10 fighter, he's going to run through him, and you don't learn anything. Let's put him.
Yeah, and this guy, it's not just that his technique's so good. I think this guy is very, very strong as well. If you watch the way that Dober got submitted, this was from half guard with a shoulder press. Now, that ain't going to happen unless you're extremely physically strong as well as precise with how you're basing and driving your shoulder in. You've got to be pretty physically strong. And, yeah, Dober ain't someone that would just tap out from anything. I mean, we saw the way he fought out of that armbar. Clearly this guy is in it to fight to the end, but that shoulder pressure must have been so intense that he had to tap. It's either that or he knew full well he was going to get put asleep. Really impressive. Yeah, I can't wait to see this guy fight again. I think he's utterly impressive.
Spot on, mate. I demand it. I demand to see him fight someone at the top of the division. Okay, next up we had Algerian Sterling versus Petr Yan. Petr Yan, the champion. Algerian Sterling ranked number 1. The fight finished after Petr Yan hit Algerian Sterling with an illegal knee to a downed opponent, which meant that the title changed hands via the DQ, which we discussed earlier with Paddy. That shouldn't be the case, but it is. Do you think? Well, like Paddy said he felt that that Algerian Sterling made the most of it. He did take a big knee to the face, but my argument, or the one thing I would say about that side of it, is yes, it's an illegal knee. What I didn't like is that once he got his interview out the way, there's social media posts and videos of him looking, he's fine, which says to me then that maybe he knew he was 4 rounds down to it. And this is the problem with that rule, Dan, is it is open to abuse. He was 4 rounds down in that fight. He was losing. He takes an illegal knee, and suddenly he's champion if he doesn't continue the fight. That can't be... No. That's not right, is it?
It should go down as a no contest, and they should rerun it. I mean, an illegal strike's an illegal strike. I kind of get that. But you're right, and this is what I was saying as well. It is open to abuse, and you bet your boots, the coaches were like, "Stay down, stay down."
God,
and
yeah. Why would you tell him to get up if you're his coach? Seriously.
I know, personally, in my mind, I just couldn't win that way. I just can't do it. But some people can.
But if your job is to do what's best for your fighter, then ultimately is what was best from his point of view. Like, is what was best for that fighter for him to not finish that fight.
Yeah.
Whether you look at it from a health point of view or a winning point of view, like, why should... I saw a few people saying on social media today, why should he finish the fight when he's taking a shot like that? Like...
Yeah, no, but maybe not. But I don't think the temptation of, I've been taking a big strike, I don't want to finish the fight. Oh, and I'll get the belt.
Yeah, that should be taken out of it, shouldn't it? Yeah, like, ultimately,
I guarantee you,
no contest.
If the rules were different and it wasn't going to be the case that he'd be handed the belt, that fight would have continued. And
that's where the problem is, isn't it? Basically, that's where the issue is.
Yeah, and so people are going to see it differently, but I still say that things should change in that instance. It really should. But talking about the fight, Sterling was actually really impressive for the first half of the first round. I thought, he's got a strategy here. He's got some idea about how he's going about beating Petr Yan. But Petr Yan I think he just was patient. He knew he had 5-5s, and he was just staying safe during that on-paw. I wouldn't say onslaught, but that on-paw, because it was almost like a pouring striking method that Sterling was using. It was just pouring and tip-tapping on. Okay, I think there was one of those long knees, or may have been a partial jumping knee that skimmed through to Petr Yan. Certainly didn't hurt him, but made you and ah about, it could have landed a little cleaner than it did. But Petr Yan was really, really seasoned. It's the only way I can say. He was patient. He knew he had the 5 rounds, and each round that went by, he started to stifle Sterling's energy out of him and started just outmaneuvering him. He was outwitting him in the striking. He was more successful when he was landing his strikes. He was patient, but when he unleashed his hands and unleashed his kicks, it was hugely consequential. And his wrestling was really good as well. He did some lovely leg-on-leg trip downs that he kept succeeding with time and time again. Some beautiful back takes into pickups and side slams. He was really, really impressive, and he didn't mix it on the ground too much. He did enough. He took Sterling down, got off a little bit of proactivity, then he would say, come straight back up to your feet. I just think everything Petr Yan was doing in terms of choices was really on point, apart from that one knee. And you see that he waited to throw the knee, and I think he just presumed that he started to come off the mat, and he didn't. It was just bad judgment.
Apparently, Khabib said that... because he obviously he speaks a different language, Petr Yan does, so he didn't say it in English. Apparently he asked his team in the fight, when Aljamain Sterling was down, he asks his team, can I strike him? And they say, one of them says, yes, kick him. So he does it, he does the knee, and I do feel for him. If he's got bad advice, like, that is so disappointing to put on a performance like that and to dominate a fight like that, and then in the moment, and it's a split second, get that bad advice, take that bad advice, but then you've got to be aware, haven't you? Like, ultimately it's down to him in the cage. He's got to know the rules, and it was clear a legal shot, and I feel for him. Look, run it back. I think we see a different Aljamain Sterling in the rematch, because I thought he looked all over the place. He was so frenetic. I don't know whether it was nerves, excitement, or what, but he looked all over the shop. His balance was off. He just looked too frenetic, is the word I would use. He just looked too frenetic.
The word that comes to my mind, which is for me, he was almost scatty. He was off balance a lot as well. It was
little trips were getting him over.
It was a strange performance, because, like I say, in the first part of the first round, he had me sat up on the edge of my seat thinking, hey, I wasn't expecting this. It just looked like he was all over Yan. But Jan was playing possum. But Jan was playing possum a little bit. He was just being patient because he did it numerous times throughout the other rounds as well. He'd play possum and just stay tight with his defence. But when it was time for Jan to open up, he opened up and was effective every single time. But look, it is what it is. This is business that's going to be left undone until they meet again. They should run this one back from the get-go as soon as, really. And I don't think things will change in terms of the result. I just think the fight will look different the second time around. But I think Jan is still too seasoned, too mature in his career compared to Sterling right now. I just think Sterling's got to go back to the drawing board about how he's going to approach Jan, whereas Jan sort of already knows what and how he's going to do things with Sterling. It's for Sterling to try to switch something up and come with something new second time around. I just hope they put it on ASAP.
Yeah, I think they've got to put it on because people weren't happy. So I think normally in that situation they try to get it on quick, don't they? Mm-hmm. They try to get that rematch on as quick as possible to stop any kind of negative press, if you like. But
yeah,
don't think Dana White was particularly impressed with it all. But
no.
What can you do? What can you do? Next up was a one-sided 2 minutes. Amanda Nunes destroyed Megan Anderson via submission armbar in about 2 minutes of the first round. She's got no one left at 145. They may as well bin this division off, to be honest, and just keep it. Just do Shevchenko at 135 because the 145 division is done. Unless they find some young fighters somewhere.
Yeah, it just seems Nunes is just so far ahead of everyone. She's physically, mentally, technically, she's just too good. I think nobody gave Anderson much chance of winning, but I thought she would have at least got through a few rounds. But she was outstruck, she was outmaneuvered on the ground, and Nunes just showed why she's so convincingly number one. It was. What can you say? You just can't say much more about that performance. It was utterly dominant, really was.
Yeah, there's not much to add, is there? It's like it was so dominant, and she's just so good that it's like, what do you say? Like, I just want to see her fight Shevchenko again. What weight does Shang Kwai fight at?
She's in. Isn't she? She's in the smaller division, isn't she? She's.
I get very confused with the women's weights.
Yeah.
So how many women's weight classes is there? 145, 135.
Three. So she'll be in the smaller one. Yeah, she'll be in the smaller one. Because I know it's Valentino always has to go up a weight, doesn't she, to fight Nunes?
To fight Nunes, yeah. So the reason I'm trying to look at what big super fights is there available in the women's divisions. So I think they're probably going to do Zhang versus So you got women's strawweight, then you got the women's flyweight, and you got the bantamweight and the featherweight. So the featherweight is the 145, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Is that right?
Yeah.
So to me, that division is done. Like, they created that division initially for Cyborg. There's not even any rankings for it. They created that division because Cyborg couldn't make weight for the bantamweight division. Right. Cyborg's gone to Bellator. So to me, I think they should retire the featherweight title. Controversial maybe, but it's a pointless title. Have Amanda Nunes to concentrate on the bantamweight title. There's some fights there for her within that division. There's some younger fighters coming up as well, like the Caitlin Vieira. Not saying she's ready now, but give her some time. You got Pani Kinzard. You've got who's the other one? Carol Rosa. Not ready now, but maybe in time in that bantamweight division. Then you've got obviously like Aspen Ladd, Holly Holm, Durandamy. But then you've also got Shevchenko in the flyweight division, who's gone up and fought Nunes. She's the only one who's ever come close since Nunes has had that turn. She's beaten everyone in the flyweight division. So correct me if I'm wrong, mate. Now, so bantamweight 135. Does that make flyweight 125?
I think so. Yeah.
So then, does that make the strawweight 115?
Does it go as low as 115?
Well, I'm not sure.
You would think we would know, but
so
we just see these.
The strawweight is the lowest, which
surely it must be listed, right?
Yeah, it doesn't say the weights on them and on the rankings, which is why I get very confused with the women's divisions, because I
thought 125 was the lightest.
All right, let me see if I can find out now, because
I'm
strawweight.
Find out.
Yeah, you are. Women's strawweight. What is the women's strawweight? 115.
Divisions.
Yeah. Strawweight is 115. So 115 pounds. So right. So basically, I wanted to know whether there was any way we could get a Zhang Weili versus a Shevchenko or a Nunes. Maybe
it's
115.
Okay, I've got all the.
So then flyweight is 125 and bantamweight's 135.
35, yeah.
How realistic or unrealistic would a Zhang versus Shevchenko or Nunes fight be, mate?
Yeah, it's probably the only
£20.
The only thing, that's probably the only thing left to make any of these matchups exciting, because they've been so dominant in their respective matches, haven't they? So
all three of them have been so dominant in their divisions that it's almost like you have to pair them up in like a little mini tournament between the three of them. That would be like, you could book it, like promote it as that as well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So Shevchenko's going to fight Nunes, the winner's going to fight Weili Zhang, or you have Shevchenko versus Weili with the winner fighting Nunes, and just something, because those women have just beaten everyone they've got no one left to fight. But
like I say, I wouldn't be surprised if Nunes thinks about retirement soon, because she married the other lady, didn't she? And now they're expecting a child, and you got to wonder whether you got to wonder whether they're doing that and preparing that sort of thing, because she's prepping up ready for her retirement. I don't know. I just wouldn't be surprised.
Right, let's have a look then, mate, because the main event. Back's here now. Right, Jan Blachowicz defeated Israel Adesanya via unanimous decision, 49-45, 49-45, 49-46. I did say, mate, over the last couple of weeks, when everybody has been saying that Adesanya's looking towards John Jones, and I kept saying, I think it was on last week's show, I kept asking the question, is he looking towards John Jones, without thinking about Jan Blachowicz, because Jan Blachowicz is an absolute beast, mate. He was big boy, super talented.
Sometimes when I listen to the commentary, it made it sound like Adesanya was all over him with the striking, and it was not the case. If you listen to it in silence, Blachowicz, although he was not quite as tidy as Adesanya, not so gameful with his feints, he was highly effective, and each round that went by, Blachowicz was landing more and more hands on Adesanya. It was not a massive convincing gap in their striking capabilities or successes. I think it was a lot closer than the commentary was making it seem to be. And on the ground, they was worlds apart. And I think when Blachowicz got Adesanya down, he knew that he's got nothing to offer to get off of his back or to create any kind of submission attempts. If you watch the way Adesanya tried to bridge out from half guard, it was completely wrong. It was completely like a power move, which you're not going to pull off on someone that's going to have considerable amount of poundage, weight advantage, and the kind of caliber of grappler of Blachowicz. It's just not going to be consequential at all. He was just transfixed on the ground. He was just pinned completely on his back when he was there. Had no idea, it appeared, to scramble back up off his back. He wasn't even trying to hunt for the fence to help him stand back up to the fence. He didn't even have a great strategy, in my opinion. Although Adesanya's been utterly dominant in his weight division, I think it's partly because in that weight division he's never faced a wrestler good enough to put him on his back, and he's always had his way with his striking. But I think we've kind of seen a big hole in his game. We all wondered what his grappling was like, and it ain't up to standard. It really is not. And you've got to wonder now whether someone who faces him back down in his comfort zone division, whether you'll get people trying to hunt for that takedown now and hunt for it real hard, which I think is the key to someone who's going to get success over him when he's back down in his weight division. And what's he going to do now? Is he going to say
he said he's going back
a
down to light heavyweight?
Down, yeah,
I think he said he's going back down. But mate, on that grappling performance from Adesanya, John Jones would absolutely fucking decimate him.
Oh yeah, he's not going to be avoiding the ground if Jones decided to take there. I'm not so sure he'd beat Jones in the striking. Not so sure he'd beat him.
He says he's got no regrets over his failed tilter. You know, he wanted to be tried for history. I got no problem with him going for it. I just felt like Jan Blachowicz has been a little bit disrespected in all this. Not anymore though. I feel like he made his point.
I wouldn't say. I don't know whether he's been disrespected. I think everyone was.
People just when I say that, I just think people look past him a lot and just assumed that Adesanya was going to walk through him and then go for the John Jones fight, and I just felt like that was never going to happen. Like, it was possible, but I just felt like he's a very very good fighter.
Yeah, he's showed to be pretty well rounded. He didn't go straight for the takedown. He spent a lot of the time on the feet trading shots with Adesanya, and that was pretty impressive for him to do that. He didn't look overly nervous. He did react a little bit overly to a lot of the feints, but Adesanya kind of makes you do that. His whole game is to make you twitch and open up. That's how he tries to get through with his clean shots. But Blachowicz, although was a little bit reactive, he wasn't breaking too much of his form and kept predominantly pretty safe. There was no real time you thought, hey, I think Blachowicz could be on his way out at any time. Blachowicz kept himself in cool demeanour pretty much at all times, and once he figured out where the successes were going to be, he didn't hesitate too much to get it there in those remaining 2 rounds. I think the decision was a good one. I think that he did win the fight, and I'm glad Adesanya's going to go back down. I think he's absolute legend in his division. But like I say, I wonder now whether people are going to approach Adesanya differently now they've seen that his ground wasn't up to much.
A couple of quick questions then, Med. Do you think that it was a mistake for Adesanya to go up for that belt simply because he's lost his undefeated streak, but he's also opened up, like, people know now that his grappling is not world class, should we say? Mm-hmm. So, do you think that's a mistake in the long run?
No, I don't think it was a mistake. I think he was 20-0. He's been really convincing and really dominant. There was nothing wrong with him trying to create a legacy by going up a weight. I just think if you're going to go up a weight, you've got to be truly complete. You've got to be truly complete. Be complete, and he wasn't. Yeah, I think had he had some decent fight off his back to scramble back up, maybe we've seen Blachowicz become more tired trying to keep him down and failing, and then we could have seen something different on the feet, and maybe Adesanya would have perhaps created and invented a stoppage on the feet. But Blachowicz, he was definitely looking more tired throughout the rounds. But he had sussed out the way to decipher Adesanya's game, and he could just get it down and pace himself on the ground, even though he was looking a little bit more tired and blowing a little bit more. It was a good performance by Blachowicz. I think he's got the respect that I think he deserves now. I don't think Adesanya's lost face, although people have seen now that he's grappling not up to much. I'm sure he's going to start trying to put those wrongs right. I don't think anyone's going to come along very, very quickly and knock him off his perch in his respective weight division. But to answer your question, no, I don't think it was a mistake. I just think at 20-0, why not have a punt up at a weight and try to broaden your horizons? Why not?
If he had won that, he would have had the golden goose, wouldn't he? He would have had that John Jones fight. So I can understand it. But it has left him... It's made his division, that middleweight division, more interesting now because people will try and get at his grappling.
Of course, yeah.
But what he's done very well in his 20-0 mate is he's kept people away from that because he's so good.
He's very, very tall, very, very rangy, and his striking's world class. And the fact that he's so rangy, that ain't easy for even the highest ranked wrestler to get in on his legs, to get in on his hips, to even think about getting the takedown. You've got to come through a lot of flack regards his striking and a lot of tricks and a lot of skillful footwork. And then you've got to deal with a sizable man in that division as well. So I think he's still going to be fairly dominant in the near future, but I do think that other fighters now will be working strategies to try to get it to the mats where it belongs if they want to get the win off of Adesanya.
Yeah. So just going back to the Algerian Sterling fight, few comments from various people around the MMA sport. Big John McCarthy and Josh Thompson, who do a podcast together called Weighing In. They basically said he took a dive. And they also posted a video of the knee strike from a different angle, and he gets his arm up, so he doesn't actually take the full brunt of it. Still a big shot, though, in my opinion. Cody Garbrandt says, "Why the hell would you interview him if he is so concussed?" Henry Cejudo says he got a concussion and he couldn't fight, but he could conduct a full interview and tweet after. This is why an Olympic gold medal is the greatest accomplishment an athlete could do. But hey, Algerian Sterling, at least you know you could make it in Hollywood. They're not happy. Darren Till says nominated for an Oscar. TJ Dillashaw says pretty much the same. It's
I'm not surprised.
Not much love for him.
I think if you're going to start acting all chuffed that you've got the UFC title under those conditions, I think it's going to do nothing but damage your career in terms of people's perspective of you. I do think he should have been like, it was an unfortunate knee, it's not the way I wanted to win. He should have perhaps been playing that approach and do damage limitation, because he ain't going to get no respect from anyone in UFC's with the way that he's won the title and he's acting about it afterwards.
Yeah, I was just going to see if he's like put anything out himself in terms of if he's made an official statement on his social media or anything like that to sort of respond to it. Let's have a look. But yes, so
while you're doing that, I'll just talk about this other fight just briefly.
Go on, go for it, mate.
Arlen Cruz versus that Uris Medic. That Medic looks explosive. He looks so explosive. He's got real attitude on him as well. He's shouting before the match. He comes in with jumping, flying knees. He comes out to get you. He could be someone to look out for. It looks like an exciting character, an exciting fighter, and I think this will cover all fights then. And the other fight that was really interesting was Carlos Ulberg versus that Kenny Zekewu. I don't know whether I'm pronouncing that second name, but that was a really strange fight. You had Ulberg really going on a massive onslaught on Kenny. It looked like it was going to be all over, and Kenny just curled up and received it. It was so close to being stopping on numerous times, but then Kenny just started to come forward, and Ulberg almost looked like he had exhausted himself in that first round. And as they went into the second round, it started to be very similar to the first, but Ulberg faded very, very quickly. Kenny got sense of that, started coming on, and knocked him out for an emphatic comeback win. It was a crazy fight, though. It's really, really strange performance on both parts. Really, really odd. It's worth a look just to
yeah, I'm gonna have a look. It's another one I'm gonna have a look at. I just went down a rabbit hole of looking at some of the social media posts about that. Jesus wept.
I imagine it's like it's alive on there.
Oh my good grief! Like a bunch of children, all of them. So basically, what Paddy was referring to earlier, Merab Dishvali, I think, is a teammate of Algerian Sterling.
Right.
He posted a picture on Instagram of him with Algerian Sterling with the title and his arm around him. You know, as you do as friends and whatever. But Petty Yan replied with like a clown emoji. And I think basically he thought he was kind of like giving it the big end, like I'm the champion. I don't necessarily think he was doing that. But if it was me, I'm not posing with that title until after the rematch. But that's unfinished business, and all it's doing is creating a great storyline for their next encounter. Yeah, it's going to be nasty, the next one. But we'll see. Let's see. I look forward to that one immensely, my friend. I've been looking forward to tonight's show a lot. And it didn't disappoint, mate. I thought Paddy was very good. He didn't hold back, said what he wanted to say. We'll definitely have him back on in the not too distant future.
Yeah.
It's going to be a real interesting one. But we build up the Cage Warriors hype next week with Jordan Vucinic and Brad Wharton joining us, which is going to be another fascinating show and discussion, and another show full of top guests. Then Danny's away for 2 weeks, so I'll have some people standing in for him. And then on the 4th of April, Danny's first show back, we have another UFC fighter joining us who's never been on the show before. And I'm very excited for that one as well. But until then, subscribe, youtube.com/Ace Podcast Nation, or download the audio versions of all the usual podcast platforms. You can always send questions in for our guests Anna or Danny, and of course you can get involved in the comments and the social media pages. You can follow the show at Danny Batten FS on Twitter and Instagram, and Ace Podcast Nation on all social media. But until then, we will bid you adieu, and we'll see you next Wednesday, 8 o'clock without fail, for another episode of the Danny Batten Fight Show. Danny, it's been a pleasure. Thank you, my friend.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
And we'll be back next week. See ya.
Defending champion, welcome, Danny Batten.
I'm transforming now these cars and planes, I'm always boarding. Just out touring down in Charlotte like I play for Hornets. When I'm performing, never boring, now you can't afford it. Champagne Perrier, finished friends on my face, looking like I'm from the deep.